Mr. Chairman. Thank you for being here, Mr. Ambassador. Haiti, I believe, is the second largest recipient of U.S. assistance in the Western Hemisphere, yet it obviously still remains the poorest country in the region. How can we make the aid that we do give to Haiti actually improve the viability of the country, the conditions of the people there, and not just continue to encourage dependency? How can we actually help the country to improve? It seems like we've tried for years to do this and have been woefully unsuccessful in that effort thus far. What would you suggest?
Thank you, Congressman. I was involved in the planning of the 5.1 billion supplemental funding for Haiti post-2010 earthquake. And I was struck by the fact that it was all Americans in the room. So when I went back 10 years later and see that Haiti's much worse, I can say that we know how not to fix Haiti. I believe we need Haitians in the room and Haitian buy-in and Haitian-led solutions. I think USAID would probably tell you the same thing. The last time in the 2010, and before that, I won't go back that far because I don't understand that well, but a lot of the grants were done with large American NGOs, many of the typical ones here in Washington. And I think they are looking, particularly post this August earthquake, to focus on local NGOs as opposed to giving huge grants to American NGOs. And I think Haitians need to be the employees of these NGOs and need to be the ones who are trained to help their countrymen and women.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Ambassador. Since May and potentially even earlier, the government of Panama, who we work with very closely and have for a long time now, Panama warned the administration of increased flows of Haitian migrants transiting Panama towards the U.S. Migrants that were interviewed claimed that they were kind of lured by the pro-migration messaging coming from the Biden administration. Although it was mixed message, sometimes, somebody in the administration, the vice president said, "Don't come." But in essence, it's like one hand is saying, "Don't come," and the other hand is saying, "Come on." As we discuss humanitarian issues, we can't really, you have to bring up the failures of the Biden administration that directly contributed to the humanitarian crisis at the U.S.'s southern border, where people were given false hope for entry into the U.S. Why did the administration neglect, do you believe, the repeated warnings from Panama, for example, who's a long-standing U.S. partner, that people were coming? And obviously, if you looked at the people under the bridges, they were just not ready for the massive humanity that came and the horrible conditions that the people had to live in under there, as well as the neighbors who had to, tolerate this tough situation as well.
Thank you, Congressman. It's difficult for me because I wasn't involved in the decisions with the Biden administration to speculate on what was going through their minds. But you're right. And I heard Congressman Sires say it also, that this problem needs to be solved in Haiti, or they will continue to come to our borders, particularly when they hear that their countrymen got in earlier in July, August, early September. Up there, but deportation back to Haiti is not the answer right now. I am not saying that intending migrants who are in illegal status shouldn't be deported, but Haiti is too dangerous. Our own diplomats cannot leave our compounds in Port-au-Prince without armed guard, and the already failed essential services delivery of the Haitian government is really overwhelmed in places like Cité Soleil, the biggest slum in the hemisphere. I've seen pictures of waste and stuff. So deportation in the short term is not going to make Haiti more stable. In fact, it's going to make it worse.
Thank you. My time's expired, Mr. Chairman.